Welcome to Shatter.
Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories. There's a moment when a man knows. Not suspects. Not wonders. Knows. For me, it was a Friday night at a rooftop bar in downtown Austin. Her company was hosting some kind of launch. She invited me out of obligation, not interest. I could tell. The second we got there, she vanished into the crowd like I was an Uber driver who'd overstayed his welcome. I stood by the railing, sipping a watered-down whiskey, watching her work the room. She lit up when she talked to other men, especially one. Tall, smooth, finance guy with a cufflink smile. She touched his arm when she laughed. That laugh, I hadn't heard it in months. I didn't confront her, didn't call her out. I just watched, until I saw her glance at me. Not a warm glance, not even guilty, just annoyed, like I was the third wheel at her own event. I raised my glass and smiled politely. She turned back to him and whispered something in his ear. Later, in the car, I didn't say much. Just drove. She scrolled through her phone, chuckled once at something he must have sent. When we pulled into the driveway, she finally spoke. "You're quiet." I nodded. "Just tired." She laughed once, soft and cold. "It's not that deep, Nathan." I turned to her. "What's not?" She unbuckled her seatbelt, looked right at me, and said, "You're just convenient. Not exciting." 7 words. That's all it took. She walked inside like she hadn't just detonated a bomb in the silence. I sat there in the car for a while. No music. No lights. Just me and the weight of what I'd known for weeks, but hadn't admitted. I was a placeholder in my own marriage. 11 years. No kids, her choice. 2 careers. A shared house. A joint account. Vacations. Furniture picked together. But none of it mattered now. I wasn't her partner anymore. I was her plan B. Her safety net. That night, I didn't ask questions. Didn't beg. Didn't even argue. I showered. Brushed my teeth. Slipped into bed next to her like a ghost. She didn't say goodnight. I didn't expect her to. But something inside me, the last warm part, froze solid. I knew what had to happen. And this time, it wasn't going to be loud. She wanted excitement. She was about to experience the coldest silence of her life. The next morning, she acted like nothing happened. She hummed while making coffee, scrolled through her phone, tossed a quick, "have a good one," over her shoulder before heading out the door. Like she hadn't looked me in the eye 12 hours earlier and said I was convenient. Like I was a delivery guy she tipped out of pity. I didn't respond, just nodded. But inside, gears were turning. At work, I couldn't focus. My team asked if I was okay. I told them I was just tired. Truth was, I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was analyzing. That word, convenient, didn't come out of nowhere. It was rehearsed. She'd been sitting on it, waiting for the right moment to make me feel disposable. That night, I started noticing patterns I had ignored. Her phone was always face down. Her laugh came easier when she texted someone else. She used to come home smelling like vanilla and old books. Now it was some sharp floral scent I didn't recognize, the kind you wear when you want to be noticed, not remembered. Still, I stayed silent. 2 days later, a friend of mine, Mark, sent me a message. A photo. No caption. It was her. My wife. At a restaurant downtown. Sitting across from a man I didn't know. Mid-30s, beard, blue suit. Her eyes locked on his. Her hand resting close, too close, to his on the table. Mark said he ran into them by accident. Didn't know what to do. Thought I should see it first. I thanked him and left him on read. That night, she came home late. Said she had a team meeting that ran over. I nodded. She kissed me on the cheek like I was a grandfather she didn't want to offend. Then she went upstairs and took a long, hot shower. While she was in the water, I opened her laptop. No passwords. She never thought she'd need one. In the browser history, multiple visits to his Instagram profile. Comments liked. A private Pinterest board titled New Energy. Messages, half deleted but carelessly cached in the search bar. She wasn't even hiding it well. But I didn't explode. I didn't confront her. I just watched. The more I saw, the more I realized this wasn't new. It wasn't a sudden shift. It was a slow fade. And I'd been too loyal, too patient, too naive to notice the light going out. She wasn't cheating in the traditional sense. Not yet. But emotionally, she'd left months ago. So I started adapting. I stopped leaving notes on the fridge. Stopped texting her memes she used to laugh at. Stopped noticing when she walked into the room. And something strange happened. She noticed. The first crack in her voice came 3 days later when she asked if I wanted to watch something together. I said I was tired. Her eyes lingered on me longer than usual, like she was trying to find the man who used to light up at the idea of just sitting next to her. He wasn't there anymore. Later that night, as she brushed her hair in the mirror, I saw her glance at my reflection behind her, waiting for me to speak. I didn't. She opened her mouth like she was about to say something, then closed it. Silence has weight when it's unexpected. She wanted excitement. I was about to show her just how thrilling stillness could be, and I was just getting started. The best lies aren't loud. They live in routine, in subtle shifts, in what doesn't get said. I became a student of those shifts. I tracked the late-night showers, the sudden urge to grab drinks with the girls, the clothes she hadn't worn in years, now magically fitting, perfectly paired with perfume she never used around me. But the confirmation came the following weekend. She left her iPad on the couch, half buried under a blanket. She was upstairs, on a call, one of those hushed, rehearsed voices that didn't match the content of what she claimed she was discussing. I picked up the iPad. Say my cloud. Her messages synced. He wasn't a mystery anymore. His name was Logan, real estate developer, twice divorced, the kind of man who posts photos of wine bottles with the caption, "Earned this." Their messages were recent and old, weeks old, probably longer. They had nicknames, inside jokes, plans. She'd been telling him she felt trapped, that she was figuring things out, that she needed time to rebalance her feminine core, whatever that meant. And then there it was, a screenshot, a calendar event she had sent him, titled, "Weekend Reset, Airbnb Confirmed." That weekend, she told me she was visiting her sister, said they needed time to reconnect. I nodded, wished her a peaceful trip, even helped carry her suitcase to the car. She kissed my cheek like a sister. I smiled like a stranger. The moment she drove off, I started documenting every password she hadn't changed, every bank transaction, every shared asset, every receipt she left behind like breadcrumbs in the forest. She wasn't just sneaking around. She was sloppy, confident in my blindness. She had no idea I'd already stopped being blind the night she said I was convenient. I moved through our home like a forensic investigator. Calm, cold. Every detail mattered now. In her bathroom drawer, I found a business card with his name embossed. Under our bed, a second phone charger she kept hidden. On her laptop, a folder labeled Consulting Opportunities that was nothing but travel itineraries and wardrobe plans. I didn't touch a thing, didn't move a file, didn't log out. I just watched and recorded. By Tuesday, she returned. Smelled like a hotel. Had a new scarf. Different energy. She walked in with a glowing kind of ease. The kind people wear after being seen, touched, chosen. I asked how her sister was. She said fine, distracted. Talked about the weather. I nodded through it all. Later that night, as she slept beside me, her body turned away, the way it had been for weeks. I looked at her and didn't feel anger. I felt precision. She thought I was still unsure, still processing. She didn't realize the verdict had already been delivered. And what was coming next wasn't revenge. It was removal. Surgical. Silent. Final. I wasn't going to confront her. I was going to erase her. The disappearance wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a slammed door or a public declaration. It started on a Tuesday. I turned off Find My iPhone. Disabled location sharing. Stopped syncing my calendar to hers. She never noticed. She didn't care where I was before. Why start now? Then I changed my routine. Gym in the morning instead of evening. Left earlier for work. Stayed out later. When she asked why, I just smiled and said I had a lot on my plate. She didn't press. That told me everything. On Thursday, I canceled her secondary credit card. Quietly. No alert. She'd find out when she tried to swipe it. I also opened a private account, moved half our joint savings into it. Legal. Ethical. I left enough to keep the illusion going. On Friday, I left my wedding ring on the nightstand. Not hidden. Not explained. Just placed it there like an object that had lost its meaning. She didn't comment on it. Just stared at it once, then went back to her phone. By Saturday, I had booked a short-term rental across town under a friend's name. Simple. Furnished. Anonymous. I packed a week's worth of clothes and left while she was at her yoga class. I left the bed made, the dishes done, the lights off. Like I'd never been there. I didn't text. Didn't call. Didn't leave a note. I let her come home to silence. Hours later, my phone lit up. First with a missed call. Then a text. Where are you? I didn't respond. She tried again. Are you okay? Still nothing. 3 messages. Then 5. Then 9. No answer. That night, I watched the home security feed from my phone. She walked through every room like she was expecting to find me hiding. Opened the closet. Called my name once. Then stood in the middle of the living room, just waiting. Her breathing changed. Her posture cracked. That was the first time I saw it. The look of someone who realized control had slipped from their fingers. On Sunday, she showed up at my office. I wasn't there. She left a voicemail. Voice trembling just enough to be real. Can we talk? I deleted it without listening to the rest. By Monday, I was already operating from the shadows. I hired a private firm to secure my financial assets, changed my emergency contacts, rewrote my will. She didn't know I had moved 3 steps ahead. That while she was still reacting, I was already rebuilding. Every time she called, I let it ring. Every time she texted, I read it, then archived it. I wasn't being cruel. I was being clinical. She had wanted space. She now had a galaxy between us. But the part she hadn't calculated, the part that stung the most, was that I wasn't angry. I was done. No explosion. No confrontation. Just absence. And that silence? It was louder than any scream I could have given her. There's always a weak link. She thought she had upgraded. Moved from dependable to dangerous. Traded steady for seductive. But what she didn't realize, or maybe didn't care to research, was who she was really dealing with. Logan wasn't impressive. Not in the ways that mattered. The suits were rented. The car was leased. The real estate success was built on 2 flipped condos and a fake LinkedIn portfolio. He was an image, all angles and illusion. And I knew because I made it my business to know. I had someone on my team look into him. Discreetly. Legally. Turns out, Mr. High Value had a few skeletons in his closet. Tax issues. Legal threats from former clients. And one particularly damning piece. A non-disclosure settlement tied to a prior relationship. Sealed, but not invisible. I didn't confront him. That would have been theatrical. Instead, I gathered everything and fed it through back channels. Quiet emails. Anonymous tips. One to a journalist who'd been sniffing around shady developers. One to a podcast host who specialized in exposing lifestyle frauds. And one directly to a brokerage firm that had just listed Logan as a partner. Within a week, the cracks began to show. One of his deals was paused. A client backed out. His Instagram, the same one my wife used to stalk, went silent. She noticed. She didn't say it, but I saw it in her eyes. That glowing confidence she had carried for weeks, it dimmed. She came home quieter, less flashy, stopped posting empowerment quotes. The boutique yoga sessions slowed down. The clothes got less curated, more cautious. And then, just like that, Logan disappeared from her stories entirely. She didn't bring him up, didn't offer an explanation, probably didn't think I noticed or cared. She was right about one thing. I didn't care. Not about him. Not about them. What I cared about was the erosion of her certainty. The way she started looking over her shoulder, wondering who else knew. Why her new man suddenly became a ghost. And I never claimed responsibility. I didn't need to. I let the world do the work for me. Because unlike her, I didn't need to be loud to make an impact. I just had to understand leverage. She used to walk into rooms like she owned them. Now, she checked the mirror twice before stepping outside. The boldness, gone. Replaced with calculation. Doubt. And that, more than anything, was my quiet revenge. I hadn't laid a finger on her life. I had simply removed the illusion she built it on. And as she stood there, brushing her hair in longer strokes, glancing at her phone with hesitation, one thing became clear. She was finally starting to understand what it felt like to be on the outside. Exactly where I had been for months. And we were just getting to the middle of the game. It didn't take long for the silence to travel. See, the thing about social circles, especially hers, is that they feed on perception. Appearances. Image. And when that image starts to crack, people notice. Not immediately, but gradually, like a slow leak in a perfect house. You don't see the damage at first. But one morning, you step into a puddle, and the illusion's gone. The first shift came at her best friend's birthday dinner. I didn't attend by design. She showed up alone. No hand to hold. No power couple energy. Just a woman trying too hard to look like she wasn't unraveling. One of her friends asked casually where I was. She said I was traveling for work. Another asked how things were going. She paused. Too long. Smiles turned tight. Side glances exchanged. Women know. And men, If they're paying attention, read the subtext. Then, midway through the night, someone asked her if the rumors were true. Not about Logan. No one dared say his name yet. But about us. About the distance. About how I hadn't been seen at any events, hadn't liked any of her posts, hadn't appeared in her curated life for weeks. She laughed it off. Said we were just working through a season. That's when someone else, a cousin, I think, leaned in and asked, "You really thought no one would notice?" That line, I didn't script it, but it spread. By Monday, her Instagram was on life support. No new posts. Old ones archived. Photos of us gone. Replaced by quotes about growth and personal evolution. A digital panic. At work, she started arriving early, staying late, avoiding eye contact. She knew that whispers move faster than facts. And I hadn't said a word. Her sister, the only one in her family who ever saw through the glitter, called me. Said she noticed something was off. Asked if she needed to step in. I told her the truth, gently. No theatrics. No bitterness. Just that sometimes people choose wrong and only realize it when it's too late. Her voice was quiet after that. Then she said something I didn't expect. She's scared. I can hear it when she talks. Not because she lost you, but because she doesn't know who she is without being chosen. That stuck with me. Because she wasn't used to being on the outside of anything. Not socially. Not emotionally. She was always the center. The one who left, not the one left behind. But now the center had shifted. And for the first time, she was orbiting something she couldn't reach. Me. I wasn't angry. I wasn't bitter. I was unavailable. And that was a language she didn't speak. She used to be fluent in control. Now she was drowning in silence. And the crowd? The friends? The curated image? They weren't going to save her. Because shadows don't explain themselves. They just watch. There's a specific kind of loneliness that doesn't come from being alone. It comes from knowing you were replaced by silence, not someone else. She tried to deny it at first. Acted like the social shift was temporary. That friends were just busy, that I was processing. She played the waiting game, expecting me to come back, to reset the balance. But when a pattern becomes a wall, even the most confident people begin to question which side they're on. By now, I had completely removed myself from her orbit. I moved out of our shared accounts, disconnected from joint services, stopped paying for the things she'd grown to treat as automatic. Her subscriptions, her beauty boxes, her boutique gym membership. Quiet moves. Subtle, but surgical. She reached out once, texted me a list of forgotten passwords. I didn't respond. Then came the family dinner she used to organize. A tradition. Birthdays, milestones, casual catch-ups. She attended alone. Her father asked where I was. She said I was working through some things. Her mother didn't believe her. Neither did the cousin who noticed her trembling hand while she poured wine. No one asked again. She started staying in more. Posting less. Her profile, once curated to reflect empowerment and freedom, now read like a diary of denial. Meanwhile, I watched from a distance. Not stalking. Just measuring the silence. Because when you remove the noise, all that's left is truth. She used to fill the space between us with noise. Plans. Distractions. Trips. Now, there was nothing. She tried reaching out to my sister. They had been close once. But that bridge burned the moment my sister found out about Logan. No one respects the person who tries to keep both sides of the game. Her silence was no longer a tactic. It was an outcome. I heard she tried therapy once. Didn't stick with it. Probably because a mirror doesn't flatter when you've broken everything behind it. I never gloated. Never told friends what she did. I didn't need an audience. Let her own discomfort speak louder than any accusation. The final blow came when her job asked if she was okay. Not in the friendly way, in the you're slipping kind of way. She started showing up late. Missing calls. Forgetting tasks. And for a woman who built her identity on control, being seen as unstable, it shook her. And still, I said nothing. Because the worst kind of punishment isn't shouting. It's absence. I had become a shadow. Not angry. Not begging. Just gone. And the thing about shadows? They stretch longer the lower the sun gets. And hers was sinking fast. I knew it was coming. The confrontation wasn't an if, it was a when. People like her don't cope well with quiet. Not when the silence starts sounding like a verdict. She needed closure, not because she missed me, but because she couldn't handle the narrative slipping out of her hands. It happened on a Wednesday. I came home late, though it wasn't really home anymore. Just the condo I'd started renting, spare, clean, temporary. She was waiting near the entrance, leaning against the wall like she still had the right to take up space in my life. I didn't speak, just unlocked the door and walked past. She followed me inside without asking. That alone told me everything. She wasn't here to apologize. She was here to reset the game. She stood in the middle of the room like she expected a conversation to rise around her, like she thought I would break the silence first. But I didn't. I dropped my keys, took off my jacket, sat on the couch, looked at her like you look at an unfamiliar painting. No emotion, just observation. She cleared her throat, said she missed us, said things had gotten out of hand, that she never intended to lose this. I didn't move. She tried again, asked if we could talk. Really talk. I stared through her. Not cruel, not cold, just gone. She walked closer, said she'd made mistakes, that everyone deserves a second chance. Still nothing. Then her tone shifted. Desperation crept in. She asked if there was someone else. I almost smiled, because that was the moment she realized she was no longer competing with another woman. She was competing with peace. And she was losing. When she finally stopped talking, the silence between us was heavier than anything she'd said. I looked at her the way a man looks at a closed chapter. Not with anger, with indifference. She waited for a reaction. A tear. A word. Anything. She got none. Then she whispered, "Say something." I did. For words. It's not my job. That broke her. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. Her shoulders sank. Her hands dropped to her sides like something inside her had been unplugged. I stood up, walked past her to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, took a sip. Calm, casual, untouched. She was still standing there when I came back. Smaller now, quieter, less certain of who she was. She asked if there was any way back. I didn't answer, because I wasn't deciding anymore. I had already decided, and she knew it. She walked out minutes later, slower than she came in, like she was carrying something heavy that hadn't been there before. Truth does that. I didn't watch her leave, just closed the door, and locked it. Some people fall with noise. Others collapse in silence. She belonged to the second kind. After the confrontation, she didn't reach out again. No texts, no missed calls, just withdrawal. The kind of quiet that doesn't come from dignity, but from defeat. The kind that follows a realization. She had lost a man who never raised his voice, never made a scene, never asked to be chosen. A week passed. I heard from mutual friends that she'd taken a leave from work. Burnout, she told them. Just need time. But the truth had nothing to do with emails or meetings. It was weight she couldn't carry anymore. The weight of her own decisions, now heavier with no one else to blame. She started losing ground. Fast. She stopped showing up to events she used to host. Her face disappeared from timelines and stories. The carefully crafted online persona, gone. Even her closest friends, the ones who had supported her during her new chapter, began pulling away. No drama, just distance. Like they sensed something off, something tainted. It wasn't guilt that consumed her. It was the absence of control. She couldn't fix the image anymore, couldn't twist the narrative. The man she expected to wait, the one who always showed up, always forgave, always filled the silence, had gone dark. And no one was clapping for the woman who bet on chaos and lost to quiet. I heard she tried reaching Logan again. That ended badly. He had moved on. Or maybe just vanished when things stopped being shiny. That's what men like him do. They chase the version of a woman who's already out of her own depth. So she was left with nothing. Not the old life. Not the new one. Not me. And that's when the cracks started showing. Her apartment, which she'd styled like a sanctuary, now looked like a waiting room. Half-packed boxes. Unopened letters. Wine glasses that never made it back to the cabinet. She stopped taking care of herself. Slipped into a rhythm of avoidance. Days blurred. Nights stretched longer. I didn't see it firsthand. I didn't need to. It came through in fragments. Word of mouth. Traces online. A mutual friend's offhand comment. She's not the same. Of course she wasn't. She thought this story was about freedom. About finding something better. What she didn't see, what she never prepared for, was what happens when the better version of the man she left no longer sees her at all. She wasn't abandoned. She was forgotten. Not out of cruelty, but because the man she knew had rebuilt a life that didn't require her memory to function. And in that space, that irreversible distance, she finally met the consequence she always thought she could outrun. Silence. complete, permanent. And there was still one thing left to give her. The ending. She came to me one last time. It was late afternoon, the kind of quiet hour when even the city holds its breath. I heard the knock, but didn't move right away. I already knew it was her. There's a certain weight in how some people knock. A pause between strikes. Like they're still deciding whether they deserve to be heard. I opened the door. She stood there in a coat too thin for the season, makeup half done, eyes carrying weeks of unrest. Not sad, not broken, just emptied out. She didn't ask to come in. Just looked at me like someone staring through a window at a place they used to live. Familiar, but no longer home. Then she spoke. Said she finally understood. That silence isn't absence, it's a mirror. That she kept trying to fill the space between us with noise, distractions, options, but none of it mattered once the center was gone. She said my silence was louder than any anger she expected. That it was the one thing she never prepared for. Not because she didn't think I was capable of it, but because she didn't think I'd ever choose to walk away. And here I was, already on the other side of everything. She asked me if there was still a chance. If some part of the past was salvageable. If there was anything left I wanted from her. I didn't answer right away. I just stepped aside, let her see the life I'd built without her. The calm, the clean, the complete removal of anything that once tied me to who I had to be for her. No framed memories. No familiar sense. No softness. Only clarity. And finally, I said the last words I would ever give her. I didn't disappear. I just stopped showing up where I wasn't respected. She blinked. Once. Twice. And then nodded. Not because she agreed, but because she finally understood. There was no scene. No breakdown. No second plea. She turned around and walked away. And this time, I didn't watch her leave. Because it didn't matter anymore. The version of me who needed closure, he was gone. The version of her who held power, she never existed. And in the silence that followed, I didn't feel relief. I felt something better. Freedom. That's what they don't tell you about endings. Sometimes the cleanest break isn't the one that hurts. It's the one that lands with a pause. No rage. No forgiveness. Just a locked door and peace on the other side. What would you have done in my place? If the story hit you, leave a like. And don't forget to subscribe. It only gets stronger from here.